Chapter 1059. Yi Qian didn't know that Tsinghua University and West University wanted to give her a direct admission spot. She always thought that this matter was over. After all, it had been more than a year since she last saw the teachers from Tsinghua University and West University. She didn't expect that this matter wasn't over yet. The schools didn't give her a reply either. After thinking for a while, Yi Qian smiled faintly and said, "I can only thank the teachers from the two schools for thinking so highly of me. I don't plan on applying to Tsinghua University or West University, and I definitely don't plan on taking a direct admission." Her words surprised Teacher Tong. She quickly advised, "Yi Qian, the opportunity is right in front of you. All you need to do is nod your head. Why don't you think about taking a direct admission? Tsinghua University and West University are the most famous universities in our country. They have many talents in the fields of science, academia, economics, and so on. It can be said that every student is proud to get into Tsinghua University or West University. I don't understand why you would give up an opportunity that others dream of. Is there some unspeakable addiction? Or do you have other plans? Thoughts of going abroad?" If Yi Qian had plans to go abroad, Teacher Tong definitely wouldn't stop her. More importantly, she had never seen Yi Qian have any plans to go abroad. Lu Lizhen and Yang Yi, for example, had plans to go abroad in the second half of their second year of high school. If Yi Qian didn't plan on going abroad, then what was the reason? Principal Chao didn't ask immediately. His gaze was slightly dim, as if he was thinking about something. When he went to Fujian Town High School that year, Old Chen said, "This child's goal is a little different, but she will definitely be willing to fight for the glory of our country." A little different goal? Just how different was Yi Qian's goal? "You probably don't plan on going abroad." Principal Chao, who had been silent for a while, spoke. His voice was slightly restrained, and he spoke with a serious tone. "Yi Qian, are you sure you want to give up on Tsinghua University and West University's direct admission spots? So easily giving up an opportunity that others dream of." He really wanted to know why Yi Qian would give up on it. Tsinghua University and West University, which family's child got in? They would set off firecrackers and throw banquets to celebrate. There were only 2 spots for direct recruitment from Tsinghua University and Shi University in the entire province. One spot was given to a boy from Class 2, and the other was waiting for Yi Qian's approval. Yi Qian had always been very clear about his goals. Without any hesitation, he smiled and said, "Last year, when I found out that Tsinghua University and Shi University had direct enrollment quotas, I gave up. Or rather, I never considered those 2 schools." Shida University is one of the most famous institutions of higher learning in China and even in Asia. It has a history of over 100 years and has produced countless great people and academic masters. As for Tsinghua University, it is the only university in the history of our country to have been established as the nation's top institution of higher learning. It is a majestic institution, and a university like this is definitely the university that every student in the country dreams of attending. I'm very grateful to the teachers of the 2 schools for thinking so highly of me, but it's true that this is not my personal goal. Since the second year of junior high school, my goal has only been to work hard to get into the National Science University. After so many years, it hasn't changed. Principal Chao, Teacher Tong, I'm willing to give up the direct enrollment quota and give it to students who really need it and have the ability to enter the 2 universities. Yi Qian's words caused the office to fall silent. Teacher Tong's gaze was already sizing up Yi Qian from head to toe. She had heard Yi Qian say that he wanted to apply for the National Science University. Every year, there would be students from the century-old provincial first high school who were admitted to the military school. However, students who were admitted to the National Science University were extremely rare. There wouldn't even be one in a few years. Chapter 1060. If she remembered correctly, it had been 4 years since the last batch of students who got into the National University of Science and Technology. Plus, all of the students who got into the National University of Science and Technology were male. There wasn't a single female student. Yi Qian wanted to get into the National University of Science and Technology. She had taught a few batches of graduates, But this was the first time she heard a girl say that she wanted to get into the National University of Science and Technology. Teacher Tong looked at Yi Qian not because she was suspicious, but because she wanted to see if Yi Qian was really determined. She said she wanted to get into the National University of Science and Technology. With her current results, it wasn't difficult. On the other side, Principal Chao asked with interest, "Yi Qian, is this your personal decision? Or did someone suggest that you give up on the two famous schools and get into the National University of Science and Technology?" Old Shen was a retired soldier and took good care of Yi Qian. He raised her like she was his own daughter. If he had any suggestions, Yi Qian would definitely listen to them. In the past, I really didn't think about getting into the National University of Science and Technology. I didn't even dare to think about going to high school. Later, it was all thanks to Uncle Chen's advice that I didn't muddle through my days. I was also influenced by Uncle Chen. From then on, I set the National University of Science and Technology as my goal. It has never changed. This is the only university I want to get into. From the moment she set her goal, she had worked hard for this goal for so many years. She even put aside her hatred for Yi Jifan's family and worked hard to improve herself. Now, she was only half a year away from her goal. She had put in so much effort, and there was still a very important person waiting for her to get into the National University of Science and Technology and wear the military uniform. No matter how tempting the enrollment conditions of Tsinghua University and West University were, it couldn't shake her determination. Good, very good. Yi Qian, it has been 7 years since our school's last female student got into the National University of Science and Technology. We will wait for your good news in next year's college entrance exam. Principal Chao absolutely supported Yi Qian's decision. He even thought that she wouldn't have any problems getting into the National University of Science and Technology. Yi Qian, who could usually score 723 points and above, would have no problem applying to the National University of Science and Technology of China. If there was no problem with his score, there would be no problem with his body and character. Teacher Tong didn't say much. She just smiled and patted Yi Qian's shoulder. Her kind smile was filled with encouragement. She said softly, "Work hard and work towards your goal. One day, you will definitely get what you want. Teacher is also looking forward to seeing you walk into the military academy and put on that solemn and sacred military uniform." I will definitely get what I want." Yi Jian smiled. Her brows were as bright and beautiful as the sun. She was so confident and so proud. Her black eyes seemed to be filled with a vast sea of stars, resplendent and bright. Teacher Tong and Principal Chao were both waiting for the day when Yi Qian, the confident Yi Qian, would get what she wanted. Yi Qian, who gave up on the direct enrollment spot for Hua University and Shi University, caused another stir in the provincial first high school. In the end, the spot that he gave up didn't go to any other student, but was directly lost. When Mengwen found out, the usually proud and arrogant girl had tears in her eyes. She ran to Yi Qian's desk and supported herself with both hands. Her breathing was a little heavy as she asked, "Yi Qian, did you give up on the direct enrollment spot because you promised me last year that you wouldn't take up the direct enrollment spot?" After a year of being together, even Mengwen, who had always secretly competed with Yi Qian in her studies, had to admit that Yi Qian was definitely a girl who kept her promises. As long as she promised something, she would do it no matter how difficult it was. Chapter 1061. Seeing the guilt in Mengwen's eyes, Yi Qian couldn't help but laugh. "Why are you crying for no reason? I didn't promise you anything. I just wanted to tell you that I really didn't want the direct enrollment spots from the two schools. I didn't before, and of course I don't now." Then he sighed regretfully. "Sigh, I thought that after I gave up, the direct enrollment spots would be given to other students. Who knew that they would be lost? It really wasn't because of me?" Mengwen quickly wiped the corners of her eyes and pursed her lips. "If it wasn't because of me, I wouldn't have apologized to you." Yi Qian shook his head. "It really wasn't because of you. Again, I think you should know that you don't have the face to make me give up the direct enrollment spots for you." After saying that, Yi Qian laughed to himself. Mengwen's face flushed red. She glared at Yi Qian in embarrassment and annoyance before swinging her ponytail and leaving proudly. After taking a few steps, she turned back and said in an awkward voice, "So what if you gave up? With your grades, you can choose any school in the country. Also, don't tell other students that I asked you those questions last year." This was the awkward and narrow-minded Mengwen, but she didn't have any bad intentions. With her, him, and them, her high school life was so rich and colorful. Even after graduation, she would still miss them often. She missed the laughter that she had never experienced in her previous life. With their existence, she had one less regret in this life. Yi Qian wanted to apply to the University of Science and Technology. In the end, she only told Jiasin and told her that she had already decided since the second year. This shocked Jiasin so much that her eyes widened at least twice. *CK. She was still wondering if she could get into the same university as Jane Eyre. When she saw her grades, she thought that she would definitely succeed. But in the end, it was like a bolt from the blue. Getting into a military school. Was it too late for her to work hard now? After being provoked, Jiasin studied even more fiercely, causing the entire dormitory to follow suit. When the final results for the third year of high school came out, all 5 girls were in the top 10 of the grade. Luckily, the 5 of them didn't take the exam in the same exam hall. Otherwise, with each one of their scores being 5 points lower than the other, the whole school would suspect cheating. Grade 12 Class 1's outstanding results left Grade 12 Class 2 and Grade 12 Class 3 in the dust. Grade 12 Class 1 took half of the top 50 places, and the other half took the top 100 places. This year's Grade 12 Class 1 graduates made Principal Chow faintly feel that this year's graduation number 1 high school. Or maybe they would forever be the strongest Grade 12 Class 1. At this time, Yi Qian's China's, Sinzesses, a lot. Hers's, S's, STS, sheetes. The rain was so heavy that walking became a problem. In order to avoid mudslides, she chose to camp at a high place and wait for the rain to stop before moving along the ridge. That's right, 500 kilometers. She needed to complete it within 15 days and reach Principal Chen's. Chapter 1062. If it was just a simple journey of 15 days, there would be no problem at all. But here came the main point. Not only were there poisonous snakes and leeches in this area, there were also drug and money trading scenes. Principal Chen said that there were often fights in this area, and sometimes there were even border and drug enforcement officers. She had not encountered drug trading scenes or border and drug enforcement officers yet, but she had seen plenty of poisonous snakes and leeches. Leeches were especially common during rainy seasons. No matter how tightly bandaged her body was, she had already been bitten twice on her neck. By the time she felt pain in her neck, it was usually full of blood. With a slap, its black and slippery body, which was at least twice the size of a leech, had already been sucked until it was round and round. With a military dagger, she could see the 2 twisted halves of its body. The bright red blood disappeared as soon as it was washed away by the rain. After dealing with the leeches, there would still be giant pythons. This type of snake was usually not a problem as long as one avoided it, but if one really encountered one, it was inevitable that one would be shocked. Looking at the python that was entrenched with the ancient vines, Yi Qian had to pay attention to her surroundings while keeping an eye on it. When the rain stopped, the python began to leave the ancient vines and slithered into the depths of the forest. In the rainforest, humans could also become python food. The rain was still dripping. Yi Qian put away the raincloth and wiped away the traces she left behind. She took the compass and continued on her way. At around 4 in the afternoon, there was suddenly the sound of dogs barking not far away. Yi Qian did not hesitate at all. She climbed up a tree with both hands and held her breath to prevent being discovered by the dogs. Dogs had a very sensitive sense of smell. When Yi Qian heard the dogs barking from afar, her heart skipped a beat. She was not afraid of the border police's drug detection dogs, but she was afraid of encountering drugs. The dogs that were used to prevent the border police from trading. Without stopping on a tree, Yi Qian carefully maintained her balance and stepped on a branch. Then she slowly jumped onto a tree in front of her. If she walked on top, even if the dogs smelt her, she would have enough time to escape. Soon, a group of people in camouflage walked into her sight. The light was too dim, and it had just rained. The mist in the rainforest was thick, so Yi Qian could not immediately determine if the camouflage was the border police or someone else. "Captain Liu, the aura has disappeared," someone said in a low voice. Then he took out a piece of cloth for the sniffer dog to sniff. After a while, the man who spoke said, something's wrong with the scent." Of course, something was wrong. The people chasing after her were not the same person. Wrong target. He went south. This is the north. Their figures were hidden behind the leaves of the rainforest. Yi Qian could only hear them whispering a few words before the sniffer dog barked again and headed north. Avoiding these specially trained dogs was also a necessary skill for a special forces soldier. Yi Qian stayed still in the tree for at least an hour. When he heard no more barking, he turned on the dim light and unfolded the military map. She needed to pinpoint her exact location. She had just heard the border police say that they should be chasing after the target, and her appearance had led the anti-drug dog to the wrong target. After checking her location, Yi Qian put the map back into the waterproof bag. She quickly jumped down from the tree with the sharp dagger in her mouth. It was past 5 in the afternoon, and the sky was already dark. Yi Qian used the luminous guide to move in the right direction again. She still needed to march for another 4 hours. Chapter 1063. Yi Qian had all the necessary equipment for a night march. Not only did he have night gear, but he also had equipment for individual combat. Personal protection, survival protection, weapons, and night vision equipment were all on Yi Qian. They were even more well-equipped than the anti-narcotics police at the border that they encountered at around 4 o'clock. Yi Qian fixed the night vision goggles and carried the domestic QBU sniper rifle with a caliber of 5.8 mm and an effective shooting range of 1,000 meters. He was expected to arrive at tonight's shelter by 9 o'clock in the evening. The road she was taking now was Xia Jinyuan's wilderness survival route. The training she went through during the winter break was also the training that Xia Jinyuan had gone through. There was no change at all. Tonight's resting place was also where he used to rest. It was a man-made cave that was not wide, but it was enough for her to sleep tonight. The 4-hour walk was extremely difficult. At around 7 o'clock in the evening, it started raining heavily again. Fortunately, it was winter and there was no thunder or lightning. Otherwise, she would have to be careful of being struck by lightning. After walking for about an hour, Yi Qian saw a piece of cloth that was caught by thorns in the green world. Like a slingshot, Yi Qian instantly dashed behind a tree and slowly approached the bush. Yi Qian narrowed her eyes slightly after taking off the torn cloth to take a look. The cloth that had been washed by the rain still had a faint smell of blood. Looking at the situation in this area, a large area of bushes had been trampled down. Judging from the area that had been trampled down, there were no less than 5 people staying here. Yi Qian then looked at an unknown tree and saw traces of a newly cut branch. He then looked at the cloth that had a faint smell of blood. There were sewing locks on both sides of the cloth. It did not look like it was torn from a shirt, but more like it was torn from the corner of a pants. He then picked up a few small branches that had been cut off and a small pile of freshly cut bark. There was blood, fabric at the corner of a pants, freshly cut branches, and freshly cut bark. Someone's leg was injured and they had to walk with their legs spread. The traces left behind were not erased. Either they were in a hurry, or they did not have the awareness to erase the traces. The border police they had encountered before could be ruled out. They would not have left such obvious traces. Even if they had rested midway, they would have smoothed it out when they left. No one was injured. At least when she saw the small team, no one was injured. It can't be, right? You're so lucky that you've bumped into some of the people thereafter? Yi Qian muttered softly. He put the torn cloth back in its original position and then made a slight change. He tied a knot. Then, he found some gravel elsewhere and placed it in a way that the armed police could understand. After everything was done, Yi Qian erased the traces he had left behind, put on his raincoat, and marched again. About 10 minutes later, the sound of dogs barking could be heard from the mountains. Not long after, a group of border anti-narcotics police wearing camouflage raincoats appeared where Yi Qian had stopped. "Captain Liu, over here." An armed police officer in charge of reconnaissance pointed at the cloth tied to a bush, and then pointed at the gravel under the cloth. "Slip knot, number of people. Our people have been here." A man who was not burly, even thin, walked over. He was not of good height, but his whole body was thin and cold. He removed the slipknot with his slightly thick fingers and looked at the gravel on a few wide leaves. He pondered for a few seconds and said, "It's not one of our people. Someone discovered it and left a mark to guide us." Chapter 1064. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations, not one of our people? Could it be one of our patrol brothers? Doesn't look like it. Lu Duai took off the cloth and put it to the sniffer dog's nose to sniff. He saw the sniffer dog running in the direction where Yi Jian disappeared. Lu Duai quickly raised his hand, and a group of 7 people quickly followed. It wasn't one of their patrol brothers, and it wasn't one of their people either. Someone had been here before and had discovered the abnormality here. They had left some clues for them. Perhaps it could be understood that someone was helping them. Who was helping them? It was so late at night and it was raining. Who would appear in this rainforest where drug dealers roamed and danger lurked everywhere? They couldn't be sure if it was one of their people, and they couldn't be sure if the person who left the clues was safe. They didn't erase the traces of the drug dealers, but instead left it for them to discover. Perhaps it was safe for them. It was already late at night, and the border police pursuing the drug dealers were still walking in the dense rainforest with their sniffing dogs. The rain-soaked leaves swept across their bodies, faces, and hands, leaving behind rainwater and small cuts on their faces and hands. Yi Qian, who was walking along the mountain ridge, didn't stop. At this moment, she stepped on the dense shrubs and walked in a world of green. Even the rainwater had turned into green lines, splashing down in front of her eyes. There was no light in the rainforest at night. As she walked through the uneven growth of the forest, her military boots stepped on the shrubs. Even the sound of her walking was muffled by the sound of the rain. Did they take the same route? I can see the traces they left behind along the way. Bending down, Yi Jian pushed aside the low bushes and leaves, leaving a clear mark on the green leaves, which were left on the moist mountain soil. She smiled slightly and held the sniper rifle in her hand. She took out a sterile gauze from the first aid kit and tied a knot on the shrubs. As long as the border police didn't give up on the search, they would definitely find the clues she left behind. When he found out that he was going to take the enhanced survival route that Xia Jinyuan had trained him, Uncle Chen even joked that he would be like Major Xia when he encountered a group of drug dealers who were in the middle of a transaction. Xia Jinyuan's 15-day march ended with 2 extra days, making it 17 days. They spent 2 days following the drug dealers to their manufacturing site and inadvertently helped the border police force to destroy a large drug manufacturing site. He encountered them, but he didn't expect her to encounter them as well. The only difference was that this group of people had already been discovered and were now on the run. After leaving behind the markings, Yi Qian continued to carry the heavy sniper rifle on his back and walked alone in the endless forest. There was not a trace of fear on her face. She walked extremely calmly and fearlessly. She walked on the ridge that Xia Jinyuan had once walked on without any hesitation. On a mountain road about 20 kilometers away from Yi Qian, the group of 5 had no choice but to stop running because of the rain. They hid under the leaves to take shelter from the rain. "Brother Hong, there are still dozens of kilometers to go. When can our people come to help us?" The person who spoke in Mandarin with a local accent. He spoke very quickly and looked around as he spoke. From his expression, it was obvious that he was afraid. For anyone, the fear of the unknown was present at night. Walking on the same mountain road during the day and at night would greatly change one's mental and psychological state. For these fugitives, not only did they have to face the unknown dangers of the night, but they also had to face the danger of being caught at any time. Chapter 1065. A bald man held a makeshift walking stick with one hand. He used his mouth to catch the rainwater and said, "Soon. My men will only come after we pass this part of the road. Don't worry and follow me. You can make as much money as you want in the future." The 5 of them had one thing in common. They were all bald. The leader, who was called Brother Hong, had a special identity. He was the breakthrough point of a big case for the anti-narcotics police. He had successfully broken out of prison when he went out for medical treatment. He had done it very easily, which surprised Brother Hong himself. The other 4 bald men who followed him had just been released from prison a few days ago. For their own dreams of getting rich, they once again walked together with Brother Hong, who they had known for a long time. They only hoped that they could make a fortune in the future. Brother Hong's foot had been hit by a bullet. The bullet was still stuck in his bone and could not be removed. He had only tied it up with his prison uniform and did not do anything simple. He had been on the run all this time. After he finished speaking, he lowered his eyes. A fierce light flashed in his eyes. These people? None of them could be left alive. When he escorted him to the place where his brothers would pick him up, all of them would have to be dealt with. He had promised them well, but in reality he was just drawing a hungry pancake. After resting for less than 10 minutes, the group of 5 had to continue walking. No matter how tired they were, they had to continue. If they did not, they might lose their lives. The nerves and bodies of the 5 people were extremely tense. Facing the heavy rain and the dark rainforest, fear spread like radiation in their brains. They endured tremendous psychological pressure and hurried on. The fugitives had to continue no matter how scared they were. Yi Qian, who was marching on a rainy night, also had to continue walking. 4 hours and 2 hours had passed. They were 1 hour late to the place where they could rest, which meant that they had 1 less hour of sleep tonight. They could only move forward to reach their destination. The rain became heavier again. Yi Qian wiped the rainwater off his night vision goggles. Like a ghost in the rainforest, he passed through the trees and shrubs. Yi Qian, who only had one locator on him, had not spoken to anyone for a few days since he entered the rainforest. He was either faced with poisonous snakes or leeches. Furthermore, he was drenched in the rain every day. Yi Qian's behavior was very normal. There were no abnormalities. He maintained a calm mind to calmly analyze the things that he encountered and the environment he faced. Just like now, normal people would have an instinctive fear in the face of darkness, scream in the face of danger, and faint in the face of something that suddenly appeared. He would think of dangers that he wouldn't have thought of during the day, and he would also bear psychological pressure that he didn't have during the day. Most people would not deliberately try to win. It was very likely that they would choose to avoid it. Usually they would think, "I won't take the mountain road at night anymore." This was the thought of a normal person, the most normal thought. But for Yi Qian, for the special forces, there was no turning back. They could only move forward. No matter how scared they were, they had to move forward. Not only that, they had to overcome their fear of the dark. They could not let fear overtake them. This was Yi Qian's progress. Step by step, he made solid progress. There were no shortcuts. He had to rely on himself to overcome one obstacle after another. Using his own hard work in exchange for a different life, Yi Qian had used his own blood and sweat to lay the foundation for his future achievements. Wind could not shake him, rain could not stain him. After more than a year of intensive training, Yi Qian's mental and physical qualities were far superior to his peers. Marching at night had become an essential part of Yi Qian's daily routine. When he encountered difficulties, he would overcome them with determination, and when he encountered danger, he would resolve it calmly. Chapter 1066. For example, right now, facing the 5 figures resting in front of him, Yi Qian quietly hid behind a tree, using the leaves as cover to observe their movements. The 5 of them were all bald. They sat together, and from time to time, it could be seen from their faces that they were all tense. Their eyes kept darting around, and they looked restless. These people were probably the people the border police were looking for. The leaves rustled from the rain, and their voices intermittently reached Yi Qian's ears. "Brother Hong, how much longer do we have? Can you at least give us a definite answer? We've been walking for a day, and we still haven't arrived." There's a lot of rain and snakes in the mountains, and we're all tired and hungry. If this goes on, we'll collapse before we even get here. Yes, Brother Hong. Give us a definite answer. Sometimes you say they're just ahead, and sometimes you say they're not far away. We've been walking for a day, and we're all worried and uneasy. Brother Hong, are you sure someone will come to pick us up? Brother Hong, the four of us are sincerely following you. Once you tell us, someone will come to pick us up, we'll follow you without hesitation. You've seen our sincerity, but Brother Hong, you should at least show us your sincerity, right? The four bald men spoke one after another as they surrounded the man in the middle. Yi Qian didn't immediately move away. He quietly waited for the man in the middle to reply. The sound of the rain was very loud. In order not to miss any sound, the bold Yi Jian gently moved forward about half a meter, and then slowly lay down in the bushes. She glanced around faintly to avoid being noticed by others. Brother Hong's leg was infected, and he had a slight fever. Hearing that the four of them wanted to hear his reply, Brother Hong sighed. Do the four of you not believe me? We really need to hurry, and my people are indeed waiting for me to return. Why didn't I ask my people to come to the hospital to pick me up? It's very simple. I sent a letter out when I was in prison, and I'll return to the village one day. I'll continue to lead my brothers to make a fortune. If you trust me, you can continue to follow me. If you don't, I won't force you to stay. You can choose to leave now. The four Baldies were all arrested because they were helping others to carry drugs. Why did they follow Brother Hong? It was because they had heard of Brother Hong's name before they were arrested. He knew that this person possessed a poison vein. But now that no one had come to help them after so long, they couldn't help but wonder if the poison vein in Brother Hong's hands had all been wiped out by the armed police. After he finished speaking, a younger bald man suddenly said excitedly, Brother Hong, you mean to take us to the place where you left the big goods? You'll take us there directly? Of course, the four of you sent me out. How can I not show some sincerity? Brother Hong's Mandarin also had a local accent. It was a Sichuan accent that could not be distinguished. He sighed. He really did look sincere. The young man seemed to know something, and his expression became more and more excited. Yi Qian could only hear him saying, Thank you, Brother Hong. Thank you, Brother Hong. I'll follow Brother Hong from now on. Thank you, Brother Hong. Thank you, Brother Hong. Brother Hong waved his hand. You guys risked everything to save me. I definitely have to thank you. I'll rest for a few minutes first. We'll continue our journey later. Okay. You rest. The young man looked as if he had seen a rain of money. He immediately treated Brother Hong as if he was his ancestor. Chapter 1067. His actions confused the other three. At least, Yi Qian was still confused when he saw them wiping the rainwater off their faces. When the younger bald man beckoned them to the side and whispered a few words to them, they all became excited. Yi Qian, who focused his attention on Brother Hong, smirked. The four of them turned their backs to him and whispered. Brother Hong, who was resting with his eyes closed, slowly opened his eyes and glanced over. Yi Qian could see the obvious murderous intent on his face. They didn't leave, and neither did Yi Qian. This route was the fastest route in the entire rainforest. If she went off the right path, she wouldn't be able to reach the campsite tonight. 10 minutes later, Brother Hong stood up with the help of his crutches. Wearing the raincoat he bought in the market, he continued walking. Yi Qian followed beside them. Occasionally, he could hear Brother Hong instructing the other four which way they should go. Yi Qian couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Just like her. The border between the two countries had always been the area with the most drug trafficking. It was normal to encounter drug trafficking in the rainforest. It was close to the end of the year. Criminals from all walks of life wanted to make a fortune before the new year. Drug trafficking was risky, but it was the easiest way to make money. People who wanted to make a fortune every day would take the risk. If they were always on the same side, Yi Qian still hoped that the border anti-narcotics police could find them as soon as possible. Half an hour later, Lu Duai led the team to the place where the five of them were resting. Look around. Let De Jiao rest for a while. De Jiao was the name of the anti-narcotics dog. It was a member of the team. Lu Dui, on the other hand, was looking around to see if there were any new marks. Soon, his gaze fell on a bunch of vines that had been deliberately wrapped around a few times. He looked around carefully and saw the marks left by Yi Jian. At the bottom of the tree was a newly carved arrow. Under the arrow was a 5-pointed star. Lu Dui's eyes narrowed. He reached out and touched the moss growing on the roots of the tree. Sure enough, he saw a very small 5-pointed star. At the bottom was a small sword and the number 1. They really were on the same side. They knew the Border Anti-Narcotics Police's secret code. How could there be someone else? The higher-ups had arranged for them to be the only group to keep a close eye on the situation. It was impossible for there to be other brothers keeping a close eye on the situation. Furthermore, it was even more impossible for them to keep a close eye on the situation alone. What was that all about? Who else was following him? Captain Lu erased the traces left behind and led the team forward. They were not too far away from the target, but they were not too close either. He didn't pay much attention to who was in front of him. As long as he was sure that it was one of his brothers, he felt a little more at ease. Let's see if there are any markings. An hour later, Lu Dui saw a set of signals. There was a row of 1 engraved at the bottom of the root. The first 1 was slightly longer, and the last 4 1s were slightly shorter, but the length was the same. As for the string of 1s below, there was no pattern to it. Lu Dui couldn't help but smile when he saw this. Interesting. Using numbers to transmit information. The longest 1 represented Brother Hong. The next 4 1s meant that there were 4 people around him. The last string of 1s meant that Brother Hong had reinforcements. The brothers in front of them seemed to be following them very closely. They clearly heard everything that Brother Hong said. Although this provided them with timely information about Brother Hong's whereabouts, if they followed so closely, they wouldn't be able to provide immediate support if there was any danger. Chapter 1068. Fortunately, they could confirm that Brother Hong and the other 4 didn't carry any guns or ammunition. At most, they had a dagger. They couldn't follow too closely. They were still casting a long line to catch a big fish. The brothers in front had to take care of themselves. After that, Captain Lu received more information. While they were still guessing the other party's identity, they didn't find any clues left behind in the next 2 hours. They didn't even find any traces left behind by the target. There were no signs of fighting. Did that mean the brother in front had left alone again? But because he saw it, he left a mark to see if the border police would notice. And if he left this signal, he could guess whether the border police would see it or not. This brother probably guessed the identity of the Brother Hong, who was wearing a prisoner's uniform. How could a normal person wear a prisoner's uniform and walk away? No more marks? Captain Lu, there are no signs of fighting. Nothing should have happened. After the scout finished checking the surroundings, he wiped the rain off his face and said in a low voice, either he left alone first, or he didn't plan on leaving any more marks. Captain Lu pulled his rain hat down a little and glanced at the similarly green world. He said in a low voice, it should be the brothers from other units who are involved in wilderness survival. They noticed the situation and gave us a heads up. There are no signs of fighting. Don't worry about it. Keep moving forward. Yi Qian didn't follow them. She had just arrived at the place where she could rest for the night. Naturally, she didn't need to follow them. Moreover, she felt that the border police seemed to be deliberately lagging behind, following them at a moderate pace. In the end, there wasn't even the sound of the sniffer dog. It was as if the barking earlier had deliberately disturbed Brother Hong and made them run for their lives. The man-made hole was just big enough for one person to curl up and rest. Yi Jian already had experience in sleeping outside at night. She knew what the first step was and what the second step was. First, he used the rain curtain to block the wind and rain. Then he laid out the moisture-proof mattress and sprinkled some repellent powder around the entrance of the cave. After the simple protective measures were done, he placed the most important sniper rifle inside the cave. Finally, he could go to sleep before 11 o'clock. The rain fell on the rain curtain. The pitter-patter didn't disturb Yi Qian's sleep, but she was quickly woken up. Someone was still moving forward in the rain. Their footsteps were fast but not messy. Their breathing was relatively stable. Yi Qian's mind flashed with the border police team they had met earlier. Calculating the time, it was still less than half an hour before Brother Hong and the others left. He had really calculated the time and maintained a distance of less than half an hour. Yi Qian did not interfere with the border police anymore. They must have seen the message she left behind. If she stayed any longer, she might confuse them even more and tell them that the target they were pursuing had reinforcements, so there was no need for her to leave any more messages. Yi Qian only slept for 6 hours. At 5 o'clock in the morning, Yi Qian had already packed his luggage and set off again in the humid rainforest. At 7 o'clock in the morning, he arrived at the teleportation coordinates. He turned on the locator and sent his location to Principal Chen. This was the military's positioning coordinates. As long as the signal from the locator was sent out, it would be able to accurately pinpoint his location. Yi Qian took her first sip of water since she woke up in the morning and ate a piece of hardtack. She only had 5 minutes to rest before her slender figure entered the endless rainforest in the blink of an eye. After walking for about 15 kilometers, Yi Qian hugged his sniper rifle and jumped into a nearby bush like a slingshot. There was the smell of gunpowder and blood. Chapter 1069. Yi Qian was now more sensitive to the smell of rust in the blood and the faint mixture of gases in the smoke. Even if there was a faint odor in the humid air, Yi Qian would still be able to detect it. Yi Qian, who had hidden herself well, didn't immediately move. Only when she thought she could get closer to the smell of blood did she cautiously move forward. It wasn't strange for the smell of blood to appear in the rainforest, but if there was also the smell of smoke, then she needed to be careful. Especially when she was walking on the mountain ridge between the two countries. Yesterday, she even encountered a group of escaped drug dealers, so she needed to be even more careful. If it was any other time, Yi Qian would judge whether or not she should go and investigate based on the situation, but this time, she had to go and investigate. Brother Hong had previously said that he had reinforcements and wanted to kill the 4 bald men who were escaping with him. This was enough to prove that he had reinforcements and that someone had helped him get rid of the 4 bald men. And there was only a small group of border police officers chasing after them. If they really went against the reinforcements of Brother Hong, Yi Qian wasn't sure how high the chances of the border police officers winning were. She still didn't feel at ease, so she still needed to go and confirm. Yi Jianjian walked to a side of the mountain that was covered by shrubs due to the trees growing in the shade. Yi Jianjian saw a pair of crooked feet looming in the bushes. After the battle, the bushes were filled with the smell of death. The surroundings were very quiet, not even the sound of insects or birds. It was a deathly silence. Yi Qian completely hid herself in the bushes as she moved forward. When she got close to the location of the pair of feet, Yi Qian let out a sigh of relief. There was a black, fireball-like tattoo on the neck of the deceased. Just from this point alone, she was sure that this wasn't the border police officers. In the bushes, Yi Qian picked up a bullet. It was China's own 5.8mm bullet, used in the Type 87, which was the rifle that the border police officers were issued. There were a total of 6 corpses around the area. Their necks had a tattoo that looked like a fireball. They were all killed by Type 87 assault rifle bullets. Looking at the time, the gunfight that took place here was about 3 hours ago. It was now 8:40 in the morning, and the gunfight would take place around 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning. There were 3 hours between the gunfight and the gunfight. Based on the soldiers' speed, as long as they kept moving forward, they would be at least 35 kilometers away from her. However, based on the current situation, she was afraid that she would be. Before Yi Qian could finish his thoughts, a bird flew out of the mountain and soared into the sky. 1 second, Yi Qian was still deep in thought. The next second, she plunged into the rainforest and headed towards the direction where the mountain birds had fled. Although it was not raining today, the air in the mountains was extremely humid. Yi Qian climbed to a high spot and climbed up the tree like an agile monkey. Under the cover of the leaves, he saw a figure running left and right among the branches and leaves. He picked up the sniper rifle and adjusted the scope to the maximum. From the scope, he could still see a figure chasing after him. Bang! Bang! 2 consecutive shots were fired. The figure running at the front fired 2 blind shots behind him, trying to force the opponent to hide temporarily and buy time for himself to escape. The figure chasing after him was the border police officers. The one who fired the shot was the one Yi Qian saw a familiar black fireball tattoo on his collar. Without hesitation, he aimed the sniper rifle at the opponent's right hand. She didn't need to open or close one eye to shoot. She only needed to focus and aim at the target to accurately complete the shot. Chapter 1070. The gunshot rang out again. The man with the tattoo fell backward from the recoil of the sniper rifle bullet. The bullet pierced through his shoulder, and even the gun in his hand was thrown into the air. The man fell into the bushes, and then they heard the man's painful groan after he was shot. The border police had already leaped onto the tree. They aimed their Type 87 rifles in front of them and quickly searched for the shooter. Yi Qian had already put away his sniper rifle and nimbly came down from the tree. The man who was shot in the shoulder was in so much pain that he was struggling in the bushes. Although Yi Qian was completely sure that the pursuing police was the scout he saw last night, he didn't immediately expose himself. Instead, he chose to take a detour and quietly approach. Yi Qian, who was on guard and approaching at the same time, walked to a distance where the target on the ground could hear the conversation between him and the scout. He lowered his voice and said calmly, "One of us." One of us? A woman? A female soldier? Why was there a woman? A female soldier? He quickly turned around and pointed his gun at the source of the sound. The scout saw the leaves about 2 meters away shake slightly, but he didn't see anyone. Yi Qian didn't approach and was still observing. The scout was the same. He carefully looked around and asked in a low voice, "Unit number?" "I saw you guys yesterday. The leader is surnamed Lu. You are the scout," Yi Qian said and reported his unit number. More than 80% of the scout's suspicions were eliminated. He then heard the female soldier say calmly, "You guys were chasing a fugitive called Brother Hong, who was still wearing a prisoner's uniform. There were 4 people with him. I found a few dead bodies in front of us. They all had the same black tattoo on their necks. Otherwise, I wouldn't have suddenly opened fire." The 2 began to approach each other. One was on guard above and to the right, while the other was on guard below and to the left. Yi Qian was the first to salute the scout. "I was doing wilderness survival training when I accidentally saw you guys chasing Brother Hong and the others. I was afraid that you would arouse unnecessary suspicion. In the end, I left a message under the tree root saying that Brother Hong would have reinforcements. I didn't leave it behind. When I was resting at night, I saw you guys again. I slept through the night. I didn't expect you guys to still be chasing." Only then did the scout put away the last 20% of his suspicions. He was familiar with Yi Qian's aura. It belonged to a soldier. He had the aura of a steel gun. After returning Yi Qian's salute, he wiped the sweat that had reached his eyebrows. His slightly tanned face with a friendly smile and said, "So you really are comrades in arms. It's just that we didn't expect it's a female soldier. Thank you for your help just now. This is a whistle that was sent to inform us. If we didn't catch up to him, all our preparations would have been in vain." He didn't say anything else, but he knew that Yi Jian knew. Yi Jian did not ask further. Everyone had their own duties. She had no right to know their deployment. He then pointed at the figure moving within the black tree. His tone contained a bit of killing intent as he said softly, "Directly deal with it?" "Yes." "Kill him on the spot. There's no way to bring him back." The scout finished his sentence and shot at the struggling figure. It wasn't that they were cruel. They had to do it. Being kind to them was being cruel to their own people. Being on the opposite side, they naturally had to choose the side that was beneficial to their own people. Chapter 1071. Seeing the body twitch a few times in the bushes, the scout retracted his rifle and turned to Yi Qian. "If you want to continue forward, I'm afraid you'll have to change your route or rest here for a while. We have troops ahead." If they changed the route, they would have to take a long detour, and resting in the same place would also waste time. No matter which way it was, Yi Jian did not want to choose. After pondering for a while, he said, I need to reach the pass in Laos. This route is the one we have planned. I need to go around it within the specified time. Can you contact Lu Dui? I'll pass through your deployment area. At this time, the scout's gaze fell on the Type 88 sniper rifle in Yi Qian's hands. His eyes lit up. Sniper. The female soldier in front of him was actually a sniper? They had 2 sniper rifles on their side, but after scouting, there was another position that was best equipped with another sniper. If this female soldier in front of him agreed, it would not work. If the female soldier agreed, they would have to see if the command center agreed. The scout shook his head and said, I can't answer you. If you need to pass through our deployment area, Lu Dui can talk to you. Can you tell me your serial number and name? I'm afraid we'll have to verify your identity when we get back. Talking to Lu Dui of the border police force was a solution. Yi Qian did not hesitate to tell the scout his name. I can contact my commander directly. My name can confirm my identity. As for my serial number, sorry, it's not convenient to say. She really did not have a serial number. She could only use her name as proof. Every soldier had their own serial number, just like their ID number. It was unique and would not be repeated. Seeing this, the scout did not ask again. After cleaning up the scene, the two immediately set off. After walking less than 5 kilometers, the scout signaled Yi Qian to hide and wait. He needed to leave alone and ask Lu Dui to come over. Even though there was no problem with Yi Qian's identity, the scout did not bring him to the command center for safety reasons. Instead, he brought him to the area guarded by the armed police force, just in case. Yi Qian already felt several gazes on him. He did not feel strange, but he had to be more vigilant during the operation. The brother who helped us last night was a female soldier? Lu Dui was a little surprised. Has her identity been confirmed? It was actually a female soldier? A female soldier who trained alone in the wild? He had never heard of a female soldier training alone in the wild, let alone in such a dangerous place. The scout nodded. Confirmed, there's no problem. She's now within our security perimeter, waiting for you, Captain Lu. She needs to complete the field marching training within the stipulated time. After that, her eyes lit up and she whispered, There's another piece of good news, Captain Lu. She's a sniper. Sniper? A ready-made sniper rifle? Captain Lu's eyes lit up. And it's a Type 88 sniper rifle, rarely seen. Captain Lu, should we talk to her? Captain Lu, whose eyes were also shining, suppressed the surprise of the unexpected harvest and said in a low voice, Let's contact the main force first. It'll be easier for us if the main force agrees. We still have to let the main team confirm her identity. It's better to be careful. They were just short of a sniper, and now a sniper had appeared. It was a bit of a coincidence. Yi Qian? Are you sure the female soldier's name is Yi Qian? The voice from the radio was even more surprised than when Captain Lu had heard it. He continued to ask, Her skin is very fair, her skills and marksmanship are quite good, and her facial features are easy to recognize. Chapter 1072. Captain Lu calmed down a little. He didn't know Yi Qian's serial number, so he wasn't sure. Now that he heard Chief Su's tone, it seemed like they knew each other, so he instantly felt hopeful. If it's the Yi Qian I know, then we must make her stay. Chief Su said quickly and calmly, I'll immediately confirm her identity with her regiment. I'll get back to you in 2 minutes. Make her stay first. Yi Qian, the 6th squad actually met Yi Qian. The Yi Qian they fought together with in Australia, the one who killed Red Scorpion in the air vent. If it was her, the 6th squad had to make her stay. 3 minutes later, Yi Qian saw Captain Lu, who was wearing a ghillie suit, walk over. Captain Lu looked at the young female soldier in the jungle camouflage uniform. Recalling Chief Su's solemn instructions, Captain Lu walked over and saluted Yi Qian with the same respect. Female Special Forces soldier. A godlike existence in the military. Someone who was even more powerful than the male soldiers. He had to be respected. Not only did he have to be respectful, Even his words were respectful. He reported the serial numbers of all his units, briefly introduced himself, and said, "Chief Su said that we must make you stay. He also said that with you joining us, our mission will be much smoother." Chief Su? She didn't remember knowing a soldier with the surname Su. The communication hasn't been terminated yet. If you have any questions, you can ask Chief Su for confirmation. Captain Lu was really hoping that Yi Jian would agree immediately. He had intentionally let Brother Hong out so that he could catch a big fish in one fell swoop. Before he let Brother Hong out, the team had already made a very detailed deployment and arrangement based on the information they had. Who would have thought that they would catch a big fish? But they did not expect it to be so big. 3 sentry posts required 3 snipers, and with Yi Qian, it was just right. Yi Qian saw how cautious Captain Lu was and felt a little apologetic. He quickly said, "Then I'll call Chief Su first." "I'm sorry, I can't remember who Chief Su is right now." "Yes, of course." Lu Dui saw that she didn't refuse immediately and hurriedly led the way. When Yi Qian heard Chief Commander Su's voice, it didn't take him more than 3 seconds to remember who he was. "I haven't worked with you since the last time I came back. I didn't expect that after a few years, the opportunity to work with you would come again." They hadn't seen each other for a few years, and Su Yu had already become the captain of the Border Defense Corps. When he heard Yi Qian's voice, although it had changed a little, it still matched the voice in his memory. Yi Qian also smiled and said, "I was wondering when I would get to know a head commander Su. It turns out that you're really an acquaintance." Su Yu said, "Ever since the Vietnamese Red Scorpion was killed, Laos has been developing and expanding rapidly in the past few years. Hong Ge, who we've been chasing, has been arrogant in the Mekong River for 2 years. We've also been keeping an eye on him for 2 years." She first explained the ins and outs of the situation to Yi Qian in a simple manner, then brought up the current problem. "There are 3 sentry posts. We have 2 snipers here, and there's still 1 more sentry post that we can't deal with. To ensure that nothing goes wrong, I'd like you to be in charge of one of the sentry posts. I've just asked your regiment commander. He said that it's up to you to decide, and the army won't interfere. What do you think?" Chapter 1073. Su Yu was discussing with Yi Qian. On the other side, Lu Tuan said to Commissar Yen, "I don't know if Miss Jian is lucky or unlucky. Old Chen took her to the wilderness for training, and she actually encountered a large operation by the border police. 2 snipers aren't enough, we need 3. Little Miss Jian is involved in a big operation. I think these actual battles will be helpful for Miss Jian in the future. She hasn't enlisted yet, but she has already accumulated a few military merits. Next year's college entrance exam is the most important moment. It will be very beneficial to accumulate military merits." Although Commissar Yen was worried, he calmly analyzed it and felt that it was a good thing. Since she had chosen the military, she had to live up to the military uniform she was wearing. Once she wore it, fear and cowardice would become a thing of the past. She would be fearless in the face of danger. Lu Tuan nodded and sighed. 18 years old. Many of the recruits in our team this year are 18 years old. Compared to them, Miss Jian has already come a long way. Some of these 18-year-old recruits won't be as successful as Miss Jian even after they retire. Old Lu, I realize that Yi Qian's college entrance exam is getting closer and closer. You're getting more and more worried." Commissar Yen couldn't help but laugh when he heard his old comrade sigh again. "Miss Jian will have no problem with the college entrance exam. She has a good mentality and physical fitness. Even if she gets sick on the day of the exam, she will be able to survive." There was a hint of teasing in his words. When it came to Regiment Commander Lu, he pretended to be scared. "Don't mention my past. Back then, I fell into the water and caught a cold after falling into the water. Who are you calling mentally weak?" He couldn't help but laugh. "Miss Jian is indeed much stronger than I was at that time. I have high hopes for her, I'm afraid she has already agreed. Actual battles are rare. It is indeed a good thing for Yi Qian to encounter them. Using her sniper rifle to protect the border police is also a good thing. With a gun, she can protect the country and keep her comrades safe. Life can't be changed, it can't be changed. With a gun, she can protect the country and keep her comrades safe. Yi Qian understood this on the first day of the 4-year training program. After a few actual battles, he had a deeper understanding of it. Yi Qian looked at the entire deployment and knew what the scouts had found out. His expression turned serious. Their firepower is very strong. We can't rule out the possibility that they have heavy weapons. Let the advance group find out more about the situation in the village. It's better to know more about it. If they were to directly kick the enemy's nest, they would have to have a clear idea of the level of firepower. Lu Dui's finger pointed at a location on the combat map. This is the machine gun point. The advance team will kick this place down before we fire. After Yi Jian agreed, Lu Dui felt more confident. A sniper was different from an ordinary soldier. A sniper was like a diamond in the team. As long as she appeared, she would be able to kill all the targets in one fell swoop, regardless of whether it was high firepower or high sentry posts. The charging soldiers knew that there was a sniper protecting them in the dark. It was as if they were wearing an extra layer of bulletproof vests. They felt much more at ease. We're in charge of the top, while the Laotian police are in charge of the bottom. Go to the sentry post in the south. When you're done, you can immediately regroup and don't need to take a long detour. We have both the terrain and the people. Now we just have to wait for the right time. Captain Lu tried his best to think for Yi Qian. After all, he was in training and had been dragged along to carry out the mission with them. He couldn't not be considerate. Chapter 1074. And the timing he was referring to was a rainstorm. Wait for the rainstorm to come, then use the rain as cover to carry out the operation. Yi Qian nodded. I have no problem with that. I will follow the team's arrangements. The sentry posts were all above. Brother Hong and his team were guarding against the Chinese border police. Soon, the news of the sniper taking care of the sentry post in the south was spread to the teams in the mountains. The most important thing was settled, and they were waiting for the signal to come in. With the enemy's strength, it was necessary to have 3 snipers. If they even had machine guns. Yi Qian, who was rushing towards the sentry post in the south, pursed his lips. He was afraid that there would be casualties. After reaching the south, Yi Qian finally understood why Xia Jinyuan said to go from the north to the south. If you didn't look carefully, you wouldn't know that there were people living in the villages in the mountains. After finding a few observation posts, Yi Qian finally saw a village in the corner of the mountain through the dense foliage. It was a typical Laotian farmhouse with triangular roofs and thick cross-weaved bamboo walls. From where she was, there were as many as 5 households. But with the Laotian police there, at least she didn't have to worry too much. Time ticked by. Yi Qian, who had found the best sniping position, had been in hiding for 2 hours. The Type 88 sniper rifle had an effective range of 800 meters. At a distance of 1,000 meters, it could penetrate 3 millimeters thick A3 steel plates. With Yi Qian's sniping skills, she could choose between 800 meters and 1,000 meters. But she didn't. Instead, she chose a range of 500 meters. Because if the firepower from below increased, she could reduce her running time by 300 to 500 meters. She could support the border police faster. The highly accurate Type 88 sniper rifle in Yi Qian's hands was a weapon to protect her comrades. As the time for the operation approached, Yi Qian's eyes moved closer to the scope, quietly waiting for the time to come. The rainforest was very quiet. No birds flew past, and no animals ran away. Yi Qian, who was perfectly disguised, saw the 3 snipers walking back and forth at the sentry post. From time to time, they would use binoculars to look into the mountains. The observation positions were all at the borders of the central region. Half an hour later, it started to rain heavily. Amidst the fine raindrops, Yi Qian slowly locked onto the crosshair of her scope. Amidst the sounds of the rain hitting the leaves, Yi Qian fired her first shot. Bang! The sound of the gunshot was muffled by the sound of the rain. The first shot was fired, the gun was reloaded, and the shell was ejected. Then she fired the second shot, and the third shot was a perfect shot to the head. Even though Whistle reacted quickly, he was still one step behind Yi Qian's bullet. The rain was so heavy that the sound of the sniper rifle was drowned out by the rain. When Yi Qian's fourth shot hit a sharp wooden carving on the sentry post, the China border police hiding near the southern sentry post rushed into the rain. Take care of the southern sentry post. Take care of the southern sentry post. The signaler immediately reported the situation on their side so that the brothers in the three positions could cooperate and advance. Lu Dui and the other teams all received the news and were all surprised. So fast. So fast. What's the situation with Team B? What's the situation with Team C? Team A's sentry post has been taken care of. Team A's sentry post has been taken care of. Two snipers. Team B and C quickly reported back. Soon, the other two sentry posts were taken care of. The Laos police received the news from the Chinese side and also rushed into the village. Yi Qian didn't leave immediately. Instead, she approached the village. Captain Xia had said that actual combat was hard to come by. Chapter 1075. The people living in the village were not villagers, they were all Brother Hong's drug manufacturing personnel. The real villagers had received a large sum of money and moved out of the village. This was also why Laos and China had not been able to find out where Brother Hong was manufacturing drugs. It was raining heavily, the leaves were pressed down by the rain. There was also a layer of leaves on the ground, all from the rain. Yi Qian jumped over a ditch and had already infiltrated the village. The gunfight began. The machine guns in the village fired a string of bullets, using the firepower to slow down the footsteps of the Chinese armed police. It was not just one machine gun, but 3 houses in a triangular building. The pointed house in the middle was a machine gun. The firepower was so strong that the Laos and China people had to hide temporarily. When the Chinese advance team took care of one of the machine guns, Yi Qian bent down and used a silver wire to instantly wrap around the target that the machine gunner was guarding. With a violent pull, he directly pulled the target out of the window. The military dagger was already waiting for the opponent. He slashed the neck. As blood splattered, Yi Qian jumped into the house, wrapped the silver wire around the machine gunner's neck again, and pulled him back. With another leap, he used the blood-stained military dagger to take care of another target. This time, the machine gun's firepower was not focused on the front, but on the left and right, the houses with wooden walls. The enemy in the house did not expect a sneak attack from behind. He was immediately turned into a sieve by the powerful machine gun bullets. He did not even have the chance to scream before he stopped moving. With the 2 breakthroughs taken care of, the Chinese side's progress was exceptionally smooth. Because they knew in advance that there were machine guns in the village, the Chinese side had been moving stealthily and did not directly expose their targets. There were casualties, but at least there were no deaths. Yi Qian did not have communications, so he could not immediately inform the Chinese side. After taking care of this point, he quickly rushed to the next point. Coincidentally, the advance team also arrived at the machine gun point. An armed policeman appeared on the left side of the house, while Yi Qian appeared on the right side. The two of them met face to face, and their first reaction was to rush to the window. They were on the same side. With one move, they had opened up the situation in front of them. So they were on the same side. That was good. That was good. There are still 2 more points. They're all facing Laos. 4 of our brothers are supporting them. The young armed police officer who had just taken care of the criminal in front of him was lying in the rain, gasping for air. "Brother, you stay here. I'll go and support the other brothers." Yi Qian nodded. "All right, I have no problem with that." "Female soldiers? Someone from our team? Amazing." The armed police officers, who were about to get up, immediately crouched back down when they heard the voice. They looked at Yi Qian's face, which had been washed away by the rain. "I've never seen him before. Be careful. I'll head over first." He had never seen a female soldier so powerful before. Yi Qian was guarding an exit. She did not hide in a house that could be blown up by a bomb. Instead, she chose to hide under a pile of rocks. It was an exit that led to the mountains. As long as she guarded it, she would definitely find something. When he saw a few figures dashing over, Yiqian grabbed the policeman's sleeve and said, "The big fish is here. Brother Hong is here." How could the big fish leave when it was here? Moreover, there were other big fish beside the big fish. All the more reason he could not leave. Brother Hong escaped in a hurry, but he walked slowly. The bullet in his leg had just been removed, and he was finally able to catch his breath. But then something happened. When this happened, Brother Hong suddenly understood why he was able to escape from the armed police so easily. He had fallen into a trap. He had fallen into a trap. Chapter 1076. There were a total of 6 people around Brother Hong, and in the middle was a tall, thin man with a slightly hunched back. From his position, it was obvious that this man's status was higher than Brother Hong's. The armed police made a beheading gesture to Yiqian, then set up the rifle in his hand and began to aim. Yiqian returned the gesture. "There are targets more powerful than Brother Hong. When they appear, I'll snipe them first and you'll cut off their tail. We'll flank them from the back and prevent any pursuers from coming out. Okay, be careful." The armed police immediately picked up the rifle he had set up, bent over, and circled back to cover the rear. With a pincer attack from the front and the back, they had to be wary of someone shooting from behind, but with a sniper, the armed police didn't hesitate to cover the rear. In an operation, not only did comrades have to cooperate well, but they also had to have 100% trust in each other. Although Yiqian had only joined the operation at the last minute, the way he cleared the muzzle of the machine gun left a deep impression on the young armed police. Building trust was sometimes that simple, and one cooperation was enough to make people trust each other. The 4 men escorting Brother Hong and the other 2 were like bodyguards. The guns they were holding were not ordinary rifles. They were all Steyr submachine guns that could be fired with one hand and could function as both submachine guns and handguns. This type of gun could fire a single shot with a light press of the trigger, and fully automatic with a safe press of the trigger. From the length of the magazine, it was equipped with a 30-round magazine. Even though they had powerful submachine guns, Yiqian's target was still the big fish he had set his eyes on. Here it comes. The rain was getting heavier, and Yiqian's eyes never left the scope. When the target appeared, the crosshair wasn't aimed directly at the target's vitals, but slightly off. When the target dodged to the side, the crosshair in the scope instantly locked onto him. After a bang, the hunchbacked man fell backwards. There was no pause, and everything happened too quickly. Brother Hong, who was walking with the man, didn't even know what had happened, and subconsciously turned his head to look. Fortunately, the bodyguard beside him reacted quickly, and used his shoulder to knock his employer to the side, while he pulled the trigger and fired wildly. The hidden pile of rocks was hit by the bullets, and stone fragments flew everywhere. Bang bang bang. The continuous gunshots sounded particularly dense in the heavy rain. "Retreat! Retreat!" Several bodyguards quickly shouted in Lao. Brother Hong was so shocked that he dragged his injured leg and quickly deviated from the original escape route under the cover of 2 bodyguards. "Press it down! Press it down!" At this time, Brother Hong's face was as pale as a sheet of white paper. He retreated in an extremely embarrassing manner. "Where are the others? Get over here!" Brother Hong himself was a Laotian. Because he had been active on the China-Myanmar border for a long time, he spoke Chinese very fluently. He looked more like a Chinese than the native residents of Yun province who did not speak Mandarin. The entire village was filled with gunshots. The Laotian police rushed over from below and shouted, "Surrender your guns and we'll spare your lives. Surrender your guns and we'll spare your lives." For the Chinese armed police, they didn't have that much time to shout, "Surrender your guns and don't kill." Whichever side's brothers encountered the fiercest firepower, they would immediately support them. Support, clean up, and support. Even though the entire operation was highly dangerous, it did not stop the brave anti-narcotics police from advancing. Chapter 1077. Motherf *Ker, they're using advanced weapons. These bastards, they're all dead. Don't leave a single one alive. 300 meters to the right, for targets. Move out. Cover, Cover, a brother has been shot, a brother has been shot. Discovered the drug production chain, discovered the drug production chain. Prepare to blow it up. With the cooperation of the various teams, the Chinese armed police directly blew up the drug production chain. As for how many drugs were still inside, they didn't care. The mission this time was to eliminate them. The huge explosion sounded with a bang, and the entire village shook. The flames rose with the black smoke and were suppressed by the heavy rain. The smell of gunpowder in the air became stronger and stronger. Motherf **Ker. The explosion startled Brother Hong, who was escaping. When he turned back and saw the black smoke rising, Brother Hong's face instantly distorted. My efforts are all gone, all gone. It wasn't just this one explosion. When the second explosion appeared, Brother Hong was lying on the ground, his hands digging into the soil. The murderous look in his eyes was like that of an African wild dog, so fierce that it was bloodshot. The two bodyguards didn't give him too much time to hate and immediately carried Brother Hong away. The village definitely couldn't be defended. They had to save their lives first. The blood that splashed out mixed with the rain and flowed with the water on the ground. The gunshots didn't stop, and the explosive fire didn't stop. The entire drug production village was sealed off, and the sound of gunfire and smoke were isolated from the world. One armed police officer was hit by a bullet. Two armed police officers restrained the gunfire, and another armed police officer immediately dragged his shot comrade to a hiding spot. That young face, no matter how deeply the oil paint was applied, was clearly engraved with bravery and fearlessness between his eyebrows. You said that there was no war in peacetime, and that soldiers were purely wasting the taxpayers' money. However, in those unknown jungles and deserted deserts, there were always blood-stained military uniforms. Yi Qian's eyes were filled with the glint of a sword. Every gaze was cold and ruthless. The sniper rifle in his hand had a total of 10 bullets, and now there were only 2 left. Out of the 4 bodyguards, 2 were eliminated, and 1 was shot at a fleeing criminal target. The last 2 bullets had to be left for Brother Hong. The armed police working with her had been looking for an opportunity. His target was the last 2 remaining bodyguards. It was raining heavily. Yi Jian, who had rainwater flowing into her eyes, bent down and walked as if there were springs in her feet. She jumped up quickly and violently for the first time and ran towards the direction where Brother Hong had fled at the fastest speed. She had to snipe them before Brother Hong and force the other 2 bodyguards back into the shooting range of the armed police. The dense rain of bullets behind them created a thin layer of mist. The Chinese and Laos moved forward in a battle formation, and wherever they went, their bullets would be cleared. The Laos police, who originally wanted to surrender and not kill, had a few of their officers shot down by the other side, and their firepower directly increased to match the firepower of the Chinese armed police. Without any unnecessary talk, they cleared out everything along the way. Yi Qian crouched on top of the triangular roof of a house. The black hole in his gun aimed downwards and searched. The second last bullet was correct, and it hit Brother Hong in the chest. Bang 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 bang. Continuous bullets swept over from one direction. Yi Qian, who was at the 11 o'clock direction, rolled a few times on the uneven roof when they swept the bullets in the 12 o'clock direction. Then he bent his back and bent his legs and skillfully jumped down from the roof that was about 3 meters high. Chapter 1078. Yi Qian, who had undergone strict training, knew how to bend her legs to counteract the force of gravity when jumping from such a height. Her toes touched the ground first, and then her heels touched the ground. This reduced the force of gravity so that her legs would not be injured when jumping from such a height. Brother Hong was shot and killed. The 2 bodyguards beside him knew that they had no way out since they had been targeted by the sniper. They were in a desperate situation, and whether or not they could fight their way out depended on whether or not they could be ruthless. Obviously, the 2 bodyguards were ruthless. Otherwise, they would not have used their submachine guns to fight the sniper head-on. Yi Qian did not fire again. She only had 1 bullet in her sniper rifle. She would not fire until the last bullet was in critical condition. This was the advice of a world-class sniper. the young armed police officer working with Yi Qian had been hiding in the dark the whole time. He aimed at the back of one of the bodyguards. It would be a pity to miss such a good opportunity. It would be a waste to let the sniper down. Bang! Yi Qian, who had hidden well, heard the single gunshot. The bullets that were sweeping towards her decreased by more than half. She knew that this meant that the other bodyguard had been taken care of by the armed police. Yi Qian smiled. The anti-drug armed police in the Yun province area were well known throughout the country. Most of the soldiers had actual combat experience during their military careers. In the face of gunfire, they were calmer than the average soldier. They were good at seizing the best opportunity to complete their mission. The bullets in the submachine gun were limited. After shooting for so long, the magazine was completely empty. When the sound of something like a jammed cartridge was heard, the last bodyguard had no more firepower to suppress them. He immediately ran for his life. There would not be a second person in the entire village who would run away. Especially these bodyguards who had been fighting with the armed police for a long time and had killed people with their own hands, would not let him go. The young armed police officer pulled the trigger and chased after him. How could he lose sight of a target that he had his eyes on? He could not stop until he had hit the target. This operation was called decisive action. It was the combat strategy that China and Laos had discussed together. Eliminating armed criminals on the spot was not against the rules. The armed police could also directly eliminate criminals who had escaped on the spot. Facing these criminals who had killed their comrades, there was no psychological pressure. They directly locked onto them and shot them. Chief Su, the two targets have been eliminated. Lu Dui reported the latest battle situation one by one. At this time, the Chinese armed police had eliminated the potential dangers in the village one by one in the form of a long snake. The large area of gunfire gradually decreased, and the bullets gradually became sporadic. The nearly 2-hour fierce battle finally came to an end. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the entire village was under control. In the village where there were no gunshots, the Chinese and Laotian sides began to clean up the scene. A large amount of drugs were found, but they were not carried out of the village. They were directly dealt with incendiary bombs. Yi Qian walked to Lu Dui's side and saluted him with her sniper rifle on her back. Her dark eyes were still bloodshot as she smiled and said, "Lu Du, can I leave now?" She had completed all her tasks, so she didn't need to participate in the cleanup work. She could leave directly. Asking Lu Dui was a sign of respect. The two important targets have been sniped by you. Thank you, Yi Qian. Lu Dui returned the salute to the young female soldier. His dark and resolute face looked solemn. He said solemnly, "With your participation in this operation, the entire operation time has been shortened by at least half an hour. The elimination of the high positions in the south has also reduced our casualties. Thank you, Yi Qian." Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World, and tales of demons and gods.